Welcome everyone to Scenic Jewels of North America, presented by Grand European Travel. This is another entry in our series of web events designed to share the amazing experiences you will have on a Grand European vacation. Once again, I am your host, Jake Messimer, and I'm joined by my co-host, Caitlin Junkin, and we are coming to you this morning from beautiful Portland, Oregon, or more accurately, Lake Oswego, where we're headquartered. We're just a few minutes south of where this beautiful picture was taken. We think we live in a pretty lovely corner of America, but there is so much beauty, history, food, and fun to explore in other parts of this vast continent. So now, some might be surprised that a company called Grand European Travel would offer trips right here in North America. Well, you see, we're part of a worldwide family of travel brands known as the Travel Corporation. So although our focus has historically been on European trips, we now also use our partnerships with our sister brands, the ones you see on your screen here, to offer the same great quality experiences you've come to expect from our European vacations right here in our own backyard. Today we're going to discuss a few topics. First off, why would you want to travel through the U.S. with Grand European Travel? We'll go through a few of our popular itineraries, just as examples. Then we'll talk about some great savings, and I just want to mention we've negotiated some very special deals that are only going to be available to those of you attending this webinar. So please stay tuned for more details on those and the discount code you'll need to claim it. We'll talk about how to make a booking with us at Grand European. We will be doing a prize drawing, so we will be selecting a lucky winner by random chance who will get to take home a $200 gift certificate towards your choice of Grand European trip. And finally, we'll have some time for questions and answers at the end. Now, if you have any questions during the presentation, I do invite you to submit them in the question box in your webinar control panel. And our colleague Liz is standing by to answer your questions. We'll pick a few of those to answer live in the presentation at the end. So if you've been with us in the past, or if you've joined us for one of our web events, you probably know the different elements that make up a Grand European vacation. The trips we're going to discuss today range from about $200 to $260 per day. And these vacations are packed with amazing sights, interesting people, great food, first-class hotels, and some really fun experiences that you won't find anywhere else. What you get for your money, you're going to have an expert travel director who's with you all the way through, and fun and interesting local guides to fill out local culture in each sightseeing stop. We'll have luxury motor coach transportation. It's very, very comfortable with onboard restroom, onboard Wi-Fi, actually, charging station, and so on. First-class hotels, some really great hotels, and on a lot of these trips, some fun destinations like national parks. You actually stay in national parks lodges in a lot of cases, right inside the park. We include lots of great meals, authentic meals with fellow travelers, but also plenty of time to explore on your own, get some meals out on your own too. We pick you up at the airport, drop you off there, of course. Even in the hotels, we've negotiated complimentary Wi-Fi. All of your sightseeing is done with personal audio headsets, so you won't miss a word of the commentary. And then finally, it's the balance of inclusions and free time. These are absolutely packed with fun and exciting sightseeing, but we do include plenty of downtime, so your vacation's also relaxing. So the vacations we're going to talk about today are the Scenic Parks Explorer, the Trailblazer, Tastes and Sounds of the South, Historic Highlights, and a little bit of a surprise, we are going to talk about Costa Rica Eco Adventure, a little bit different, but that is, of course, also in North America and one of our most popular trips. But, Caitlin, why don't you get us started with what is actually our most popular trip in America, the Scenic Parks Explorer.
Thanks, Jake. So this trip covers an impressive 8 national parks in 2 weeks. As you can imagine, there's a lot to be seen in these destinations, which is why this is one of our more active itineraries. So it is fast-paced, very fast-paced for some, but it's also one of our most popular vacations overall. You'll stay in a variety of accommodations on this trip, from a bustling hotel on the Vegas Strip to a charming lodge in the heart of Jackson, and you'll also get 3 nights within the national parks of Yellowstone and the Grand Canyon. So after your first night in Vegas, you'll head out on your motor coach. And first up on your tour of America's national parks is Zion, Utah's oldest and most popular park, where you'll catch a view of the famous slot canyons and towering cliffs that it's known for. Then it's onward to nearby Bryce Canyon, home to the world's largest concentration of hoodoos. Now hoodoos are these tall limestone spirals that rise from the desert floor, pictured here. So it's fascinating to see the difference between Bryce Canyon and Zion, two parks that are situated just adjacent to one another. Then from Bryce Canyon, you'll head north to Utah's capital. You'll have an orientation tour of Salt Lake, including Temple Square, the headquarters of the Mormon Church. And after spending a night at the downtown Hilton in Salt Lake, you'll make your way towards Jackson, Wyoming, stopping along the way in Montpelier for a visit to the Oregon Trail Center. But when you arrive in Jackson, you'll enjoy an evening at leisure and spend the night in the lovely lodge at Jackson Hole, pictured here, which happens to be located just minutes from Grand Tetons National Park, which you're going to visit the next day. So you have an evening at leisure, you can sleep in, wake up feeling refreshed, and have a relaxing morning before heading north through the national park. You'll enjoy panoramic views from your motor coach of the 40-mile-long Teton mountain range, some of the most dramatic mountains in North America you'll find here. Then you'll continue on to Yellowstone. On your first of 2 days in Yellowstone, you'll enjoy one of our insider experiences, which is something we're known for on these vacations. With a local expert, you'll explore the spouting geysers, bubbling hot springs, and mud paint pots throughout the day. Then on day 6, you'll continue exploring the park and its wildlife, which include elk and bison, and you'll watch Old Faithful's waters arc over 100 feet in the air.
Can I interject for just
Sure.
1 second, Caitlin? I just want to mention again the benefit of staying inside the park. I remember on a family vacation when I was young, waking up in the morning in our cabin and seeing a herd of bison running, not running, but walking slowly through our group of cabins. And it's just such a better experience than staying in maybe a town outside and coming in for sightseeing each day.
Good point. So after your 2 nights in Yellowstone, you'll head through Cody, Wyoming, named after Buffalo Bill Cody, who founded the town. And you'll also get to pay a visit to the Buffalo Bill Center of the West, founded in 1917 as the oldest and most comprehensive museum of the American West. Now, to cap off your authentic Old West experience, you'll head up to Billings, Montana, where you'll enjoy a special cowboy cookout highlight dinner with your travel companions. Your host is Pappy, who's pictured here, and he's a real-life cowboy, but he's also acted in major Hollywood productions such as A River Runs Through It and Lonesome Dove, which Jake is very excited about. From here, you'll head on and you'll spend 2 nights in Rapid City, South Dakota, with included excursions where you'll experience the stark beauty of the Black Hills and visits to Mount Rushmore and the Crazy Horse Memorial. When you make your way down through Colorado, you'll arrive in eastern Utah for a visit to Arches National Park. Now this area is home to the world's largest concentration of natural sandstone arches. In fact, there are more than 2,000 total within the park. After your excursion here, you'll stay the night in Moab with a free evening to sort of enjoy on your own. The next morning, you'll cross back into southern Colorado for a visit to the Mesa Verde National Park. And this park is truly fascinating. Between 600 and 1300, the ancestral Puebloan people carved houses and entire communities out of the sandstone of the park's canyon walls. Today, it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So on your day in Mesa Verde, you'll explore some of the cliff-top buildings and look down here on the massive cliff house, which is the largest cliff dwelling in the world. After this exciting experience, you'll head off to Monument Valley for the night, where you'll be treated to a regional Navajo cookout meal. Really is an exciting day.
Navajo fry bread. It's delicious.
So your trip has almost come to an end, but you still have a few very exciting highlights. On day 13, you'll set off in one of these fun open-air vehicles with your local expert for an unforgettable day of sightseeing. From your vehicle, you'll marvel at Monument Valley's landscapes of towering sandstone buttes and visit the land of the Navajo people, stopping at historic Cameron trading posts along the way maybe to pick up some souvenirs and grab a bite to eat. And you're sure to enjoy the sights as you cruise along Desert View Drive. The most spectacular views, of course, lie just ahead at the magnificent Grand Canyon. I love this photo. Here you'll enjoy another one of our insider experiences with a local expert who will enlighten you about the 1.7 billion years of geology that's revealed in the canyon. You'll then spend the night, again within the park, which allows you to wake up early the next morning and enjoy the stunning views one more time before heading back to Las Vegas. As you can see, this trip follows a very active pace, as I mentioned. It is our best-selling non-European vacation, however, so even with its fast pace, it still appeals to a wide variety of travelers. Now, as Jake mentioned, we do have some special deals to offer to our webinar viewers today. If you're interested in seeing the sights on Scenic Parks Explorer, and if you book by May 15th, you can save up to $640 per person, and that's specifically on the August 13th departure. So stay tuned for more info on how to claim this discount. Now, if you don't have 2 weeks to travel, or perhaps you're looking for something a little more leisurely, we have a great vacation called the TRAILBLAZER. It's 8 days, and with this trip you'll visit many of the same parks as you would on Scenic Parks Explorer. So you'll see Zion, Bryce Canyon, Monument Valley, and the Grand Canyon. And you also kick off your trip in Las Vegas, where you'll enjoy one night at the Tropicana. You can relax by the pool, stroll the Vegas Strip, or try your luck at the casinos. And then you'll head out to beautiful Sedona, Arizona. This is not included in Scenic Parks Explorer, so this is specific to this trip. Sedona is beautiful. It's known for its extensive array of red sandstone formations. And you also get 2 nights at a beautiful resort on Lake Powell, where you'll enjoy an included dinner at your hotel, followed by a free day where you can choose to go on a rafting trip. You could take in the sights on a scenic cruise, or even fish for local striped bass and bluegill.
Thanks, Kaylin. Those 2 trips really do, to me, represent the classic American summer vacation, right, doesn't it? It's just like a road trip with your family to some of the most amazing scenery in all of America. For something quite a bit different, we now head east to Tastes and Sounds of the South. Now, this trip is absolutely packed with incredible inclusions. I can only share a little bit of it with you, but I just want to point out again, this trip works out to about $260 per day. That includes really excellent and well-located hotels such as the Renaissance Nashville, located right downtown, the Riverfront Natchez Grand Hotel right on the Mississippi, and the Marriott New Orleans, which is right on the doors of the French Quarter. So let's see how this trip pans out. As you see, we start with 3 nights in Nashville, Tennessee. Nashville is known as Music City, and your full day of sightseeing here takes in many icons of the recording industry. You start with a visit to the Country Music Hall of Fame and Museum, where you see artifacts and history related to folks like Hank Williams, Loretta Lynn, more recently Garth Brooks, and hundreds of other stars of country music. Later, one of the most interesting inclusions I've ever seen on one of our vacations, you'll gain a unique insight into the life and music of Johnny Cash. We actually have a private performance and discussion with Johnny's son, John Carter Cash. John, or sometimes if he's not available, another member of his family, entertains us with his own original music, plays a few numbers made famous by his legendary mom and dad, and you get to ask your own questions about what it was like growing up with Johnny Cash as a dad at a meet and greet with him. Later on, you do a tour of RCA's Studio B. This is one of the world's most successful recording studios where musicians like Elvis Presley recorded their iconic records. Then you have a full day at leisure in Nashville, so you can do things like visit the famous Ryman Auditorium, maybe go see some live music at a honky-tonk on Broadway. And one evening, we include a visit to the Grand Ole Opry. This is where they record America's longest-running live radio program. After 3 nights in Nashville, you'll head west to Memphis, right on the banks of the mighty Mississippi River. Our sightseeing in Memphis starts with a visit to the National Civil Rights Museum. This is a very interesting museum. It's a complex of buildings which incorporates the Lorraine Motel. This is where Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. Later that day, you join a local music expert who shares stories about Beale Street, that's the street pictured there, known for its music clubs, and tales of Sun Studios, the birthplace of rock and roll. This is the building where what many call the very first rock and roll song in history, Rocket 88, was recorded in 1951, and later was where Elvis, Johnny Cash, Roy Orbison, and hundreds of others cut some of their first records. You have an evening at leisure there to explore, and I think most of our guests enjoy going out for a taste of great southern barbecue there in Memphis. Next morning, you'll get a deeper insight into the life of Elvis Presley with a visit to his famous Graceland estate with a local guide. So you can pay your respects to the king of rock and roll there. Next up, we head south from Memphis into Mississippi, and we drive down the scenic and historic Natchez Trace Parkway. This follows a route used by Native Americans for centuries before European colonists arrived. You'll spend that night in the town of Natchez, a very historically important town founded by French colonists all the way back in 1716. It's one of the oldest cities in America. It's known today for its carefully preserved antebellum architecture and historic charm. You get to experience both at a fantastic evening out at 2 of the town's most historic houses. First up is the house of Joe Stone. This was built in the 1850s and has been in his family for 130 years. Joe is a professional musician and will perform a series of historically relevant compositions on the piano while you and your friends enjoy a cocktail in his beautiful parlor. After music and cocktails, you walk a couple blocks down the way to the house of Esther Carpenter. That's the house, the pink house at the lower left. This was built in 1804. And Esther is a former Four Seasons chef and was once named one of the top 20 female chefs in America by USA Today, so you know you're going to eat well. She presents a first-class menu of locally inspired cuisine. Some things that might be on the menu the night you're there: fried river catfish with dill tartar sauce, grilled loin of pork with port sauce and cornbread muffins, and of course crayfish etouffee with buttermilk biscuits. There's beer and wine. The evening ends with dessert, praline sweet potato pie with ice cream.
Sounds great.
Doesn't it sound good? I wish I was there right now. After your time in Natchez, you wake up, get a good breakfast, and we stop at a place called Frogmore Plantation in Gins to learn about the white gold of the Mississippi Delta. And when we say gin, we don't mean the drink, we mean cotton gin. So you'll have a costumed host take you through a tour of a reconstructed 19th century plantation, and they actually still produce cotton there today, about 900 bales of cotton per day at a more modern operation next door. Then you travel through the countryside to see Oak Alley Plantation. This is a classic antebellum home right on the Mississippi River, and it's got this amazing vista of a quarter-mile canopy of 300-year-old oak trees. Beautiful. It's one of the grand dames of southern mansions. Late that afternoon, you arrive in New Orleans, and we started off right with a visit to the New Orleans School of Cooking, which is located right in the heart of the French Quarter. So anyone out there who wants to discover the flair of Creole cuisine, we take a fun cooking class and then all get to eat together the meals we've created. It's a great evening and a great way to start out your time in New Orleans. Get a hearty New Orleans breakfast, maybe some coffee and beignets, before a full-day exploration of the Crescent City. Join a tour with a local expert. You'll go through the atmospheric French Quarter. You'll see Jackson Square, which was the original center of the old city, and tour one of the city's iconic above-ground cemeteries. Then it's out to the lovely Garden District, home to some of the best preserved southern mansions in the United States. That afternoon, you have some free time, so stroll the town, grab a po' boy or some more fresh beignets, stroll down Bourbon Street, maybe see the lively waterfront area right on the Mississippi River. You're there for 3 nights, so we have actually pretty much a full day at leisure in New Orleans. So there's all kinds of things you can do. Some people like to stay in the city and experience more of it. Others like to get out of town, so you can take a tour out to a bayou, deep into the swamps, go alligator spotting if you like. Or if you choose to stay downtown, there's, of course, the shopping on Magazine Street. You can visit Marie Laveau's historic Voodoo Museum, and in the evening, catch a little jazz piano at one of the many historic jazz clubs. The last night you're in New Orleans, you join your travel director and your traveling companions for a farewell dinner at one of the best restaurants in the city, the famed Court of Two Sisters. So it's really a great itinerary. I've been selling vacations for many years now, and this seems like one of the most interesting and fun itineraries we have anywhere in the world. Now, another one of our popular trips here in the U.S. Is Historic Highlights, and year after year, this proves to be one of our best-selling trips. It's a classic tour through American history, from the early colonial period in Jamestown, Virginia, to the American independence movement in Philadelphia, the sobering reminders of the Civil War at Gettysburg, and on to the patriotic monuments of our nation's capital. Once again, you'll stay at great hotels, meet fascinating people, enjoy delicious food, and experience our country's history firsthand. So we begin with 2 nights in Washington, D.C. Upon arrival, you'll be transferred to your hotel, the Capitol Hilton. It's a great hotel. I stayed there a few years ago, and the location cannot be beat. It's less than a 10-minute walk from the north lawn of the White House. That evening, you'll meet your travel director for a light dinner and drinks at a festive welcome reception. And then the next day, you'll immerse yourself in American history with viewings of the Capitol Building, the Lincoln Memorial, the World War II Memorial, and a visit to Arlington National Cemetery, just to name a few. That afternoon, you have free time to enjoy more of D.C., so most of our guests take this opportunity to visit at least one of the many branches of the Smithsonian museums, the National Air and Space Museum being a particular favorite of mine. Next, we head south into Virginia for a visit to George Washington's home at Mount Vernon, and then back in time to America's colonial period with visits to Jamestown and Williamsburg. Jamestown was settled by Captain John Smith and 104 settlers in 1607. You'll get to see how tough life was for these early colonists while you walk through reconstructions of their crude fort and dwellings. Fast forward 100 years with a visit to colonial Williamsburg, which was Britain's largest colony in the New World. This is a living museum where you are fully immersed in what life was like during this period. You can chat with blacksmiths and shopkeepers, debate with a Federalist, and who knows, maybe you'll even run into the Founding Fathers. There's no better place to do that. Your last night in Williamsburg ends with a fun traditional meal in a historic tavern, followed by an evening walking tour. It's really a beautiful way to spend some time there in Williamsburg. Next up is what many think is a highlight of the trip, a visit to the house that Thomas Jefferson built, Monticello. Thomas Jefferson was one of the most accomplished Americans in history. Of course, he was the 3rd president of the United States, the principal author of the Declaration of Independence. He was an inventor and a lawyer. He was a self-taught architect. He designed this house after just reading books on architecture. And in my opinion, most importantly, he introduced macaroni and cheese to 19th century America. So we have Jefferson to thank for that. His house at Monticello is considered one of the great achievements of American architecture. And you'll learn why on your guided visit of his estate. Spend the night in Charlottesville, Virginia, and then we take one of the most scenic roads in America, Skyline Drive, through Shenandoah National Park, on our way to Gettysburg in southern Pennsylvania. We get to tour the historic battlefields with a local expert who paints a vivid picture of one of the Civil War's most pivotal battles. You'll also visit the Gettysburg National Military Museum to see the famous Gettysburg cyclorama painting. This is a 377-foot-long circular painting that surrounds you with scenes of Pickett's charge. Back in the 1880s, this was sort of the equivalent of going to see an IMAX movie, so it was a very popular thing for folks to see back then. Our trip ends in the Cradle of Liberty, Philadelphia. We walk in the footsteps of Ben Franklin with visits to the Constitution Center, Independence National Historic Park, and Independence Hall, home of the Liberty Bell and the place where America was born with the signing of the Declaration of Independence. You bid farewell to your travel companions at a festive farewell dinner on the last night. This is an incredible trip. It almost reminds me of the types of trips we would take back in high school when we were learning about American history, but a great way to remind yourself of the things that made this country great and our history. If you'd like to check out historic highlights, we have 2 departures in October. Oh, even Thomas Jefferson agrees. This is an amazing deal. On October 1st and 3rd, you can save up to $420 per person if you book by May 15th. And October is a great time to visit these areas. It's pretty warm in these areas in August and that time. So in October, it'll be nice weather, beautiful scenery. So I encourage you to let us know if you're interested in this tour. And again, we'll let you know your discount code towards the end. Now, as promised, we're going to now go somewhere quite different, almost all the way to the edge of the continent, Costa Rica. Costa Rica Eco Adventure. This is a great, quick trip, something quite exotic but still relatively close to home. I went to Costa Rica in 2008, and I was totally won over by this country. The people are lovely, the food is good, the scenery is amazing, the wildlife especially is incredible. We're running out of time here, so I'm going to go kind of quickly through this one. I'm just going to mention a few highlights. You start in San Jose, which is the capital, and that's really just your jumping off point, before heading towards the Caribbean Sea to the town of Tortuguero. Tortuguero is a tiny village in the jungle. You actually cannot get there by road, so we go to a sort of a jungle outpost, we get into boats, and we go the rest of the way to Tortuguero through these canals. You're there for 2 nights at a really nice jungle lodge, and while there you'll get to see all the wildlife that Costa Rica is justly famous for. You'll take these boat trips out into the canals with locals who've grown up in the jungle, and they have an incredible knack for pointing out and finding wildlife. So you'll see, in addition to what you see on the screen with your monkeys and your frogs and your toucans, you'll see sloths, you'll see other exotic birds. It's really a fun thing to do, and it was my favorite place in Costa Rica that you visit right off the bat. Later on, we leave Tortuguero and spend the night in the small farming community of Sarapiquí, and this is on the way to Arenal. We stop at a palm plantation to learn about and taste the local specialty, which is hearts of palm. Then we meet the charming Quintana family who built an eco-friendly hacienda and organic farm. We get to learn about their traditional farming activities before settling in for a delicious lunch with ingredients that came right from their farm. Then it's on to Arenal. Arenal volcano, it's completely picture perfect. It's a beautiful, beautiful volcano. You spend the night at a great hotel with views of the volcano, and in this area, because it's volcanic of course, there's hot springs. So our hotel is actually a hot springs resort with its own hot spring pools right there on site. So it's a very relaxing evening there at Arenal. Then off to some light adventure. We climb the mountains through coffee plantations up to the town of Monteverde. Monteverde is very interesting. It was founded in the 1950s by American Quakers who were attracted by Costa Rica's official policy of not having any military. It's still quite remote today, but it's now become a hotspot for ecotourism. So when you hear people talk about going ziplining or whitewater rafting in Costa Rica, a lot of that is done right here. For something a little more sedate, we include a great guided visit to the Skywalk, which you see pictured here. You can't really tell in this picture, but these are walkways suspended high in the jungle canopy. We're talking a couple 100 feet above the ground, and so you can see the whole ecosystem that takes place right at the tops of the trees that you'd never see if you were just down on the ground. Now, if you take the short version of this trip, it actually ends there and you'd fly home. But if you're smart, you'd want to stay a little longer and go to the extension on Guanacaste Beach. This is a 2-night stay at a beautiful beachfront resort on the Pacific coast in an area called Guanacaste. You have plenty of time to relax, take part in whatever activities you may like. We've got tours of the rainforest canopy, river rafting, zip lining, horseback riding. There's a nearby national park you can visit. I think a lot of people, though, just like to take this time to wind down at the end of their trip. Just sit on the beach with a cold drink in your hand, maybe a good book, and just relax before you head home. So Costa Rica, if it hasn't really been on your list of places to visit, I encourage you to look into it a little more. Costa Rica is a fascinating country, and these are coming up pretty quick here, but we've got 2 dates, June 26th and July 24th. Again, book by May 15th this year and save up to $340 per person. And that trip's a great deal even without discounts. So this really makes it an incredible travel value. So if you are interested in booking any of these or any of our other great vacations, we encourage you to call one of our friendly and knowledgeable travel experts. They're available at the number you see on your screen. As you can see from the pictures, they're world travelers just like you are, so we know you'll enjoy talking to them. Of course, this isn't all of them. This is just a few. But they can help plan your vacation exactly the way you want it. So go ahead and give them a call. And once again, let me recap these special last-minute seat sales. So once again, book by May 15th 2015, and you can save up to as much as $640 on one of these trips, depending on the trip and the departure date. What you're going to do is mention discount code TE73. So if you've got a pen and paper handy, write that down. You'll say, I came to the webinar, and the discount code is TE73. And these are limited availability, so we encourage you to call soon if you want space on these. Now, of course, Caitlin and I are going to say very positive things about our trips. We work for the company, but we do encourage people to be savvy shoppers and go out there and research the quality of our trips. And to help with that, we post unedited guest reviews. We post every single guest review we get. We don't cut any of them out. And to view those, you can go to our website, that's getours.com, and look up any trip. Here's the Tastes and Sounds of the South, and at the upper right-hand side, you'll see some gold stars, little logo that says FIFO next to it. That's the company that helps us post our reviews. Click on that, and you'll see reviews from travelers who've been on that particular trip. We have hundreds of reviews already posted, and right now we're maintaining a 96% positive rating, which we're very, very proud of, and we work very, very hard to maintain. Well, as our web event comes to a close, we do thank you so much for joining us. And again, we said there was going to be a prize drawing, so let's see. I think our colleague Liz put out everyone's name in a hat and drew a winner.
Right, and again, the prize is a $200 travel certificate, correct?
Right, and whoever wins, I will be in contact with you at the end of the day to tell you how to claim that. So the lucky winner is?
Deb Allen.
Deb Allen, congratulations. Again, I will be in touch. We have your email address, so congratulations, and I'll email you later today. Now, if you're still with us, we have some time for questions and answers. So what kind of questions were we getting from our attendees today?
All right, it looks like we'll take about 4 questions. First one, can you book my airfare?
Okay, good question. When you're traveling to Europe, we absolutely book your airfare. We have great contracts with many of the major airlines. Domestically, the airlines are not as easy to work with for contracts. We tried for a few years, but what we were finding was the contract rates were definitely not advantageous, and most of our customers ended up buying their own flights because they could save a lot of money that way. So we do not offer flights in conjunction with domestic trips. However, we are more than happy to help you look up flights. Many of our employees here came from the airline industry, can give you great advice. We can look up flights and suggest ones that will match up with our transfer times and what have you. So we can't do flights, but we can at least help you with that.
Okay. Somebody asked, can I extend my trip to stay an extra night or 2 in Las Vegas? So in our scenic parks and Trailblazer vacations, you kick off your trip with a night in Vegas.
Yes, absolutely. Now, and that's not just true in Vegas, it's true everywhere, but I think Vegas is one of the more popular places, especially because those trips only include 1 night there. So if you want to go in early or stay later, maybe play around at golf or have fun at the casinos, you absolutely can. And that's true of every trip we sell. We can do extra nights at the beginning or end.
Great. Are there optional experiences, and if so, how do I find out about them? Additional experiences that we didn't mention for the vacation?
Yes. In fact, I think on Taste and Sound of the South, I mentioned there's a full day at leisure in New Orleans where you can do trips out to the bayou. Absolutely. Most trips have at least a few optional excursions available. You can visit our website, look up the tour, and on the lower left-hand side, there's a button that says Optional Experiences. It will list descriptions, how long it is, and a price. In addition to that, of course, when you do buy a trip from us, we will send you your documents a few weeks before you go, and that will always include a list of the optionals that will be offered on your trip as well.
Great. Somebody asked, how many hours are we traveling on average per day?
How many hours are we traveling on average? Actually, it really does depend. Right. First of all, you're never going to be traveling uninterrupted for more than about 2 hours. We always make sure to stop. It just depends on where you're going. Some days there's rather long drives if you have to cover a lot of ground. But it is a good mix of sightseeing. So we'll try to break up the traveling day with sightseeing stops, or at the very least comfort stops. And when you're in a city, typically your sightseeing is done morning into maybe early afternoon. So say your sightseeing might start at 9 and run until about 1, and then usually there's leisure time or something else planned in the afternoon.
Okay, thanks. I think that does it.
Oh, are we done?
I think we are.
Okay, well, thanks again, everyone, for joining us. We've really enjoyed presenting this Scenic Jewels of North America. We certainly hope you'll choose to join us on one of our trips right here in your own backyard. So thank you so much for attending, and we will be presenting more of these webinars in the future, so stay tuned, watch your email inbox, because you'll certainly get an invitation for the next in our series of web events. Thank you very much for joining, and happy travels, everyone.
Thank you.